तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीरितम् कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततम् भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. So we will continue with Master's conversation with Keshav Chandra Shane. It's on the boat where Sri Ramakrishna was traveling with Keshav and other Brahmo devotees. And in the last class, we saw that the conversation has already started. And we will continue with the conversation which follows after the discussion which we had in the previous class. The Master, do you know how a lover of God feels? His attitude is, O God, thou art the master, and I am thy servant. Thou art the mother, and I am thy child. Or again, thou art my father and mother. Thou art the whole, and I am a part. He doesn't like to say, I am Brahman. So we will find that this each and every word of Sri Ramakrishna is actually speaking of the profound Vedantic philosophy behind it. That Brahman, the absolute, when finds expression as the universe, then there is a ruler and there is the one who is ruled. The one who is above the Maya is the Mayadhish, and the Jivas, the ordinary Jivas, they are Mayadhin. So when the Brahman finds expression as the universe, then there is the Lord, and again, there is the one who is under the domain of Maya. He is being ruled by the one who is Mayadhish. So in our scriptures, they say that God is the collective aspect of this creation. That all the Vyashti, when finds expression as the Samashti, that's the God. The God is the Samashti, and each and every Jiva is the Vyashti. So even in our day-to-day life, we will find that it is the Samashti which rules over the Vyashti. It is the collective aspect of our existence which always rules over the individual aspect of our existence. So here, that's why when the creation comes into picture, God is the master, we are the servant. He is the father, he is the mother, he is the whole, and we are the part. So just to understand that how there is collective is God and the individual is the soul. And it is the collective that always rules over the individual. Even in our day-to-day life, let us take the example of the traffic lights. So now, what is our individual goal as per the Vyashti is concerned, as per the individual is concerned? That we want to reach our destination as early as possible. So that's our goal. That's the goal of the individual. But now, that's the goal of everyone. Each and every individual who are on the roads wants to reach their destination as early as possible. So we know that if everyone tries to reach their destination as early as possible, there will be a chaos. At all the junctions, there will be a chaos because everyone is trying to overtake the others. And we will find that the entire traffic has come to a stagnation. So for that, what's the way out? So there's a samashti aspect. There are the traffic lights, which sometimes allows me to move ahead, and sometimes it asks me to stop so that the others can move ahead. So that way we find all get the equal chance. Sometimes I am deprived, sometimes I get the advantage. So that's the samashti aspect. So you will find it is the samashti who rules over the vyashti. That the collective aspect is always ruling over the individual aspect. It's not only that it is a man-made rule. Even you will find there are some wonderful examples even in the creation, which is spontaneous. Very interesting that we have no hand over the choice as a human being. When the parents are having their children, there is no choice whether it is going to be a boy or it is going to be a girl. It's just a matter of chance. That if anyone wants a boy, it is not assured that he's going to have a boy. If anyone wants a girl, it is not assured that he or she, the parents are going to have a girl. It's a matter of chance. But if you see the samashti aspect, in the entire creation, if you don't disturb the nature, if you allow the nature to work by itself, a wonderful thing that no one is planning as such, but the ratio of the male and female, unless we are disturbing it, is almost equal. This is one example. We will find that the samashti is ruling over the vyashti. That whether I want a parent want a boy or a girl, that decision is taken by the samashti aspect. It's not that the parents, as they desire, that they should have a boy or a girl, that they're going to get it. There's a samashti aspect which is taking care. There's a wonderful balance we will find. So now you will find that when the master is saying that in the devotional scripture, they say that the samashti aspect, the God which is the whole, he is ruling over the part. The Brahman finds expression as the ruler and the ruled, as the Mayadhish, as the Mayadhin, as the Ishvara, as the Jiva. Ishvara is the collective aspect, Jiva is the individual aspect. And it is a collective aspect which is always ruling over the individual aspect. In our all phenomenal existence, whether it is planned by the human, whenever there's a samashti that has to be planned by the human in our society, or where the mother nature is left free to work by itself, you will find samashti is ruling over the vyashti. And that's why this is the same thing which has been spoken of here, that, O Lord, you are the whole, I am the part. And naturally, you are the master, I am the servant. You are the creator. That's why you are the mother, you are the father. Thou art the whole, I am the part. So he doesn't like to say, I am Brahman. So the devotee always wants to maintain that distinction between the Ishvara and the individual and the Jiva. He wants to enjoy the bliss of communion. He doesn't want to become one with Brahman. As Sri Ramakrishna in some other place has mentioned, that I don't want to be sugar. I want to taste the sugar. If you become the sugar, what's the joy in becoming the sugar? You have identified with it. But when you are tasting the sugar, you're different from the sugar. Then comes the question of bliss. So, O Lord, yes, though essentially we are the same conscious principle which is finding expression as God. That's being indicated in the Vedantic dictum, Tat Tvamasi, that I am never one with God. But the conscious principle, which is the essence of God, is the same conscious principle which is the essence of me. So that way I am one with the absolute, one with Ishvara. But as per the manifestation, he is the whole, I am the part. He is the ruler, I am the ruled. He is the master, I am the servant. So that is being expressed by the master in his conversation. When he's saying, do you know how a lover of God feels? His attitude is, O God, thou art the master and I am the servant. Thou art the mother, I am the child. Or again, thou art my father and mother, thou art the whole and I am a part. He doesn't like to say, I am Brahman. The yogi seeks to realize the Paramatman, the Supreme Soul. He withdraws his mind from sense objects and tries to concentrate it on the Paramatman. Therefore, during the first stage of his spiritual discipline, he retires into solitude and with undivided attention practices meditation in a fixed posture. So that's the yogi. The devotee wants to commune with the divine and to enjoy the bliss of that communion. And the yogi wants to realize the essence of his being, the Supreme Soul, that constantly we are getting identified with our mind, with our senses. He wants to disidentify from his mind and from his senses and try to concentrate on the essence of his being. And through this process of meditation, through this process of concentration, he wants to attain the same goal. Why the goal is same? As per the endeavor is concerned, one is wanting to enjoy the bliss. One is wanting to have the communion with the Paramatman. What is the common factor in both? Both want to identify from their limited psychophysical existence. Whether it is through communion, by enjoying the bliss of communion with the divine, or by focusing on the essence of your being and trying to disidentify from the body-mind complex. Whatever we are doing, the essence of all the practice may be varied as per our temperament, but the basic thing is to disidentify ourselves from our psychophysical existence, which is limited, which is a flow. As long as we are identified with that, we are bound to suffer. So that's the thing which is common, whether it's a yogi or it's a bhakta. But the reality is one and the same. The difference is only in name. He who is Brahman is verily Atman. And again, he is the Bhagavan. He is the Brahman to the followers of the path of knowledge, Paramatman to the yogis, and Bhagavan to the lovers of God. So let us try to understand with the allegory which we tried to bring into the discussion in the last class also, that if sun is the Brahman, then the raindrops, that we know that when the rain is there, when the sunlight is there and it's raining, that sometimes it so happens that the sky, the cloud is not there. It means the cloud is there, but the sunlight is visible. The cloud is not obscuring the sun. So the sunlight is visible and the raindrops are falling, and that's the time we find the rainbow in the sky. So in the last class, we took this example to explain the aspect which finds expression as Brahman, the aspect which finds expression as the Atman, and the aspect which finds expression as God, Bhagavan. So what are these three? So the sun is like Brahman. When it falls, sun is reflected on each and every raindrops. Each and every raindrop is like the jiva, the psychophysical existence, each and every raindrop. When the sunlight falls in each and every raindrop, the sun is being reflected in each and every raindrop. That reflection of the sun in each and every raindrop is the jiva, is the individual soul. And each and every raindrop again is refracting the sun rays to form the spectrum, the collective aspect, in the form of rainbow. We will find now, once the rainbow is formed, now interesting thing, we will find that as long as the raindrops are falling, the sun appears to be constant, as fixed in the sky. The rainbow also appears to be fixed. It's not moving. It has taken a particular shape in the sky. There is no movement in it. There is no movement in the sun. What is moving is the raindrops. So there is a flow. In this constant flow, when something which is permanent gets reflected, it appears as something which is not changing, which is also as if permanent. The rainbow appears as if permanent. What happens when the absolute gets reflected in the flow, in the jivas, in the flow? The jivas are constantly in the state of flux. So our minds are changing, our body is changing. On that, behind that, the absolute is there. When that absolute gets reflected through this flow, the collective aspect of it appears to be again changeless. And that's the thing which we call as God. The rainbow is as if the God, the reflection of sun in each and every raindrop is the Atman, and the sun is the Brahman. Now, when raindrops are not there, the rainbow is not there, but the sun is. So when the creation is not there, the question of God and the created, the jiva, doesn't exist, but Brahman exists through eternity. So that's one thing. So, but now, as per our temperament, we try to identify as our spiritual practice with three things. The Jnani tries to identify with the sun itself. The yogi tries to identify with the reflection of the sun in each and every drop, raindrop. That illumination in the form of reflection, it wants to identify with that. And the bhakta is the lover. He wants to enjoy the beauty of creation. And that's the thing, he wants to enjoy the collective aspect, the rainbow. In all the three cases, what's the common factor? That none of the three is identifying themselves with the raindrop. So that entire spiritual journey is that alone. That when someone asks Ramakrishna, Ami mukto hobo kabe, when shall I be free? His answer was, when I cease to be. Ami jabe jabe. Ami mukto hobo kabe, Ami jabe jabe. When shall I be free? When that I is within the inverted commas, I cease to be. It is this I which is the cause of bondage, this idea of limited individuality. As long as I feel I am the raindrop, I am within the domain of Maya. I'm bound to suffer because the raindrop is so ephemeral. If I identify myself with the raindrop, I find my existence is constantly being as if in peril. That I am born, I age, I die. But the moment I identify myself with something which is apart from this ephemeral existence, maybe it's in the form of the Brahman, the sun, or the reflection in the raindrop, that also is the same illumination of this as the sun, or I'm trying to identify myself with the rainbow. In all the three cases, I'm trying to disidentify myself from the raindrop. That's my psychophysical existence. And that's what is being related to the notion of I, this limited ego. So in any way I can get rid of it, that entails in liberation. So we will find that what Sri Ramakrishna is saying is something wonderful, that the reality is one and the same. The difference is only in the name. He who is Brahman is verily Atman. It is the same sun, which is finding the same illumination, which is finding expression as the reflection. And again, it is refracted as the rainbow, as the collective aspect of this reflection is the rainbow. It is the same illumination. So it is the same Brahman, which is verily the Atman, and again, he is the Bhagavan. He is Brahman to the followers of the path of knowledge, Paramatman to the yogis, and Bhagavan to the lovers of God. So as per our temperament, we may try to identify with this absolute reality in three different ways, but all the three serve the same purpose. All the three helps us to get rid of our limited individuality, to annihilate this idea of this limited psychophysical existence. So that's the thing Mr. Ramakrishna is indicating by his words. The steamer has been going toward Calcutta, but the passengers, with their eyes fixed on the master and the ears given to his nectar-like words, were oblivious of its motion. Dakshineshwar, with its temples and gardens, was left behind. The paddles of the boat churned the waters of the Ganges with a murmuring sound. But the devotees were indifferent to all this. Spellbound, they looked on a great yogi, his face lighted with a divine smile, his countenance radiating love, his eyes sparkling with joy, a man who had renounced all for God and who knew nothing but God. Unceasing words of wisdom flowed from his lips. So whenever we find such discussion in the gospel, it's not something which is meaningless. We will say that what happened in the past, he's just relating the background. It has nothing, it has no spiritual significance as such. So we will do a big mistake thinking that way. Actually, when I'm reading the gospel, it helps us to be in the presence of the master. That background helps us. Just when we are reading this, if we try to contemplate this way, that though these words as such doesn't speak of any spiritual significance, but it helps us to do Leela Dhyanam. The divine, when he incarnates, he sports with his devotees. Why not try to just contemplate on the fact that as if I am also one sitting in the boat, Ramakrishna is conversing. His face is full of smile, the divine smile. His countenance is radiating love. His eyes is sparkling with joy. I'm just in his presence, listening to him, while the boat is just floating, is crossing, is just flowing over the stream of over the Ganges, and the cool breeze is blowing. So this entire thing helps us to contemplate, to be as if in presence of Ramakrishna. So that's the description which we'll find. That's why the master have given a very, very intricate, very, very detailed discussion of the background. Throughout the gospel, we will find it is interspersed with such description. The master, again the words of the master, the unceasing words of wisdom started flowing from his lips. What the master said, the Gyanis who adhere to the non-dualistic philosophy of Vedanta say that the acts of creation, preservation, and destruction, the universe itself, and all its living beings are the manifestations of Shakti, the divine power, known as Maya in the Vedanta philosophy. If you reason it out, you will realize that all these are as illusory as a dream. Brahman alone is the reality, and all else is unreal. Even this very Shakti is unsubstantial, like a dream. So when he was speaking of the creation, that when the Brahman finds expression as creation, we may think that it is parinama, it's a transformation, as if God has become the universe, just the way milk becomes yogurt. So that way we will be doing a mistake. There is no change in God. If God changes, he also becomes perishable, just like us. There cannot be any transformation in the ultimate reality. So then this creation, when we say God's, it is the God's creation. From God this creation came. And at the same time, we say that there is no change in God. Then how can we explain the fact of creation? So there in Vedanta, they say it is not parinama, It is adhyasa. But it's something which is unchanged, but it is appearing as something else because of Maya, because of this delusion. Just the way when I'm passing through the desert, I see the mirage. Something appears as a huge reservoir. I'm thirsty. I run towards it to realize that it was a mirage. So the desert is the substratum in which that mirage is projected. It's not there. The desert has not changed into reservoir. The desert remains as desert, but it appears because of ignorance as that huge reservoir. The same thing happens when in the twilight hours, I'm passing through the road and there is a rope lying. Because of insufficient light, I see it as a snake. The snake is not there. It was not there. It will be not there. It is not there at the present. But because of ignorance, at certain point of time, because of ignorance, this rope, which has not changed, appears as snake. And when someone brings the light, focuses on it and say, see, it is just a rope. And then my ignorance vanishes. It still continues to be the rope. It has never changed. So the creation is this like adhyasa. So it's just like when I go to sleep and then I start dreaming. In the dream, so many things happens. I get nightmare, I shout, I scream, or sometimes I'm in extreme joy. And when I come back, when I get up, I find I am the same person. This dream was something which was just the projection of my mind. So this dream which we have, the way it is a projection of the mind. Similarly, the entire creation is the projection. When the Brahman finds expression as the cosmic mind, this creation is a projection of that cosmic mind. So it is also like that dream. So when that, what is actually the dream? That whose reality is negated when one wakes up. Similarly, for a person of spiritual realization, the entire existence, the entire cosmos is negated on the attainment of the Nirvikalpa Samadhi. When you go to that state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the creation is not there. You become one with the absolute. You become one with that non-local consciousness. Again, when you come back to your body, mind, senses, you see the universe. And then you feel that it is a working of the mind and the senses, which makes the absolute appear as this world of name and form. So when we are wearing the taint glass of mind and senses, the mind and senses are like the taint glass, which taints our vision, and we see something which actually is not. So it is like a dream. When we go to the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the entire creation falls off. It makes me identified with the absolute non-local consciousness. And then I find that I'm identified with that. It is just because the consciousness gets reflected through the body, mind, senses, then this creation comes into existence. So there is a wonderful poem of Tagore's, a song, that Tomai amai milon hole shokoli jay khule bishwa sagar uthe tokhon dule. Means the entire creation starts vibrating when there's a communion between you and me. What is this you and me? This me is this psychophysical existence with which I am identified. When that psychophysical existence is in communion with the absolute, then this creation as if opens up. Shokoli jay khule bishwa sagar dheu khelaye uthe tokhon dule. The entire creation as starts vibrating. So it's just the projection of the mind and the senses. When that mind and senses is getting associated with that absolute reality. So that's why he's saying, that's Ramakrishna. Again, we read the word, the Gyanis who adhere to the non-dualistic philosophy of Vedanta say that the acts of creation, preservation, and destruction, the universe is itself and all its living beings are the manifestations of Shakti, the divine power, known as Maya in the Vedanta philosophy. If you reason it out, you will realize that all these are as illusory as a dream. Brahman alone is the reality, and all else is unreal. Even this very Shakti is unsubstantial, like a dream. But though you risen all your life. So here comes the most important aspect of our spiritual journey. The spiritual journey, we think, is just an intellectual confirmation, intellectual understanding of this idea that I am not this body-mind complex, I am the Atman, I am the Brahman. So we may go on cogitating on the fact, on this dictum, but if this doesn't take us to the realization that if we have not really gone beyond our mind and senses to have realized our identity with that non-dual existence, know it for certain, it in no way can help us to go beyond this jurisdiction of Shakti. We still will be within the throngs of the dualities of the existence in the form of pain and pleasure, suffering and joy. It will be there. So once we go to the realization, then that falls off. But till we go to the realization, however we may go on reasoning, it's not going to help us spiritually. So, but though you, that's why Sri Ramakrishna is saying, but though you risen all your life, unless you're established in Samadhi, you cannot go beyond this jurisdiction of Shakti. Even when you say, I am meditating or I am contemplating, still you are moving in the realm of Shakti within its power. So when I am meditating, when I say I am meditating, then there are three aspects are there. That I am the meditator, there's an object of meditation, and the process of meditation, which is connecting the meditator with the object of meditation. So this is called Triputi. So there's a distinction that you have not become identified with the absolute. There is something I am saying, though when I say I am Brahman, Brahman is something as if apparent from I. This constant contemplation, with this constant contemplation, I'm trying to get identified with something which I am not. So that's why Sri Ramakrishna says, when you say that I am meditating, I am contemplating, still you are moving in the realm of Shakti. When I just go on cogitating on the fact that I am Brahman, it creates a Brahmakara vritti. This thought that I am Brahman. When your mind gets extremely focused on that thought, everything else falls off. You're trying to hold into that one thought. If you can really do that, a time comes when that thought also falls off. Why it falls off? To give a very common example, that in this world, everything is flowing. That's why this world is called samsara. Samsarate, everything is flowing. Samsarate, it flows. Our body is changing. We were young, we are getting old. Our mind is constantly fluctuating, jumping from thought to thought. The mind is mind as long as it is flowing. It is jumping from thought to thought. So if there is no polarity, then this flow is bound to stop. You will find in this life that everything is flowing. And why that flow is there? Because there's a polarity. Water flows from higher level to lower level. If both the levels are same, the flow will stop. There is no flow. The current flows, electricity flows, when there's a difference in potential. If both the ends have same potential, no current. Similarly, the mind is mind as long as it is jumping from thought to thought. If by meditation, though the meditation at the beginning, there's a three distinct aspects: meditator, the object of meditation, and the process of meditation. But when I get just fixed in that one thought, previously my mind was just thinking A, B, C, D. I have made A. Whatever I may be meditating. Some may say that I am more illumined because I know I am Brahman. The devotee is bit more in ignorance, because he is meditating on something which he thinks is separate from him. So I am more advanced. But know it for certain, these are all notions. These notions in no way speak of realization. Realization, when it comes, when somehow, whether being a devotee or being a jnani or being a yogi, I have been able to keep my mind in one thought, whether the thought is of Brahman, whether the thought is of Atman, or whether the thought is of Bhagavan. When you can keep the mind in one thought, then what happens? As we told, when the polarity is resolved, the flow stops. Same thing happens with the mind. The mind is mind as long as it can jump from thought to thought. When you can keep the mind in one thought without any gap, even what happens is that there's a difference between dhyana, dharana, and samadhi. What is dhyana? When I can keep my mind in one thought, I think my mind is in one thought, but thoughts are like bits. It rises, it falls, it rises, it falls. So there's a gap between two thoughts. So though you have got rid of the distraction, that gap is there. The frequency is less. You will find that in modern digital these photos, the concept of resolution is there. We say the photo looks to be very, very bright and prominent if its resolution is high. What is resolution? It is DPI, dots per inch. So actually all these digital photos are made of dots. If the dots per inch is less, you will find the photo appears to be broken. You can see the dots. But if the dots are very intense, they as if form a continuous line, and the photo appears to be of high resolution. The same thing happens in meditation. First, I get rid of the distractions. I keep my mind in one thought. Many may say that I have kept my mind in one thought, but it doesn't take me to the samadhi. You are saying that the mind is supposed to fall off as long when there's only one thought. We forget that each and every thought is rising and falling. And I am yet to get adept to increase the frequency of this interval of thoughts. The more, therefore, this dharana, that's why becomes dhyana. Dharana is when I'm able to keep my mind in one thought, but the frequency of the thought waves are still less. With more intense practice, this just like the DPI increases, here also the thought waves frequency increases, and it becomes like a constant flow. And the moment it happens at some point, at certain point of time, when it has really become intense, the mind suddenly is bound to stop because the polarity has been resolved. This mind cannot jump from one thought to another thought. There is no gap between one thought and another thought. The polarity has been resolved. The mind becomes thoughtless. That's the second sutra of the Yoga Sutra. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. The mind has stopped. The moment the mind has stopped, what happens? As long as the sun was falling on the prism, it was breaking into the spectrum of these 7 colors. You remove the prism, the spectrum is gone. It merges with the sun, it merges with the white light. The same thing happens when whatever you may be meditating on. When you reach that ekavritti, that's saying whether it is ishtabritti or it is brahmakara vritti, whatever it may be, the moment it happens, there's a triputi bheda, dhyana, dhyata, dheya. This idea that I am meditating, that falls off. You become one with the object of meditation. The mind has, for the time being, fallen off. So there is no projection. Just the way it happens in the movie theater, that you are watching the movie because there's a projection through the projector. The light is being projected and it is creating this panorama, that scenes after scenes. And when the projection stops, the projector, that the light is no more falling on the projector, then I see the screen. All the projection has stopped. And then I realize that actually is the screen. Everything else was a projection. After that, again, if the movie starts after the interval, now I am no more deluded. I know what's the screen, what's the background behind. The same thing happens in the process of meditation. As long as I'm having the idea, I am meditating, I am contemplating, still that triad is there. The triad falls off, collapses, Triputi Bheda. When your meditation becomes intense, whatever may be the object of meditation, whether you say I am Brahman or you say I am a devotee of God, then only you go beyond the jurisdiction of Shakti. Just for the time being, the panorama has fallen off. And then once you realize, you are not going to be deluded anymore. After meditation, again you may, when you go to that samadhi, and after that you come back to this world again, you're a totally changed person. That's why Swamiji used to say that many confuse deep sleep with samadhi. We jokingly said is Kumbhakarna Darshanam. Then Kumbhakarna would have been a realized soul. If deep sleep is samadhi, to make a distinction, Swami Vivekananda in one line, very nicely, he has given a distinction between deep sleep and samadhi. What he's saying, a fool goes into the deep sleep, comes back as a fool. A fool goes into samadhi, comes back as a realized soul. He's totally transformed. How to explain the transformation? That Swami Vivekananda explains. That as a parivrajak, as a wandering monk, he was passing through the desert, he was thirsty, he was in search of water, suddenly he saw a huge reservoir, and he was drawn towards it as he was thirsty. And then suddenly, when the mirage was no more seen, after he started proceeding, suddenly it vanished. Then the thought came that from my childhood, I have studied about mirage. It was an intellectual knowledge. I thought I knew, but I never realized what it is. Today, for the first time, I realized. What's the difference? Next day, when again I'm passing through the desert, maybe again I'm thirsty. But as I'm in my mind and senses, again I do see that reservoir. Again I have that vision of that mirage. But today there's a great difference. I know it is a projection. Yesterday it dragged me. Today it cannot drag me. So it has lost the power to trap me. So that's why now you will understand what Sri Ramakrishna says, that just by mere reasoning, we can never go to that spiritual equipoise, where all the happenings of life has no hold over me. It only happens after realization. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. But though you reason all your life, unless you're established in samadhi, and that you can be established either by being a bhakta, by being a yogi, or by being a jnani. The goal, the aim is to somehow get established in that samadhi. Unless you have gone there, you cannot go beyond the jurisdiction of Shakti. Even when you say, I am meditating or I am contemplating, still you are moving in the realm of Shakti within its power. This is a simple 2-3 lines. But how profound, if you really think, that's why gospel has to be contemplated. There is so much meaning between the lines. It actually brings out the entire philosophy. This simple, that's why there's sometimes the gospel's words appears to be so simple that we miss the point. Actually, it's a profound, the entire Vedic, the Vedantic philosophy can be extracted just from these few lines, what he's saying. So that for most of us, we are ativada. There's this idea of this there in the Mundaka Upanishad, that a realized soul is a nativadi. Ativada, what is ativada means? That when my speech transcends my realization. I haven't realized something, but I'm just speaking. I'm just babbling. That is ativada. Ati means to transcend. Vada means speech. When my speech transcends my realization. So a realized soul is a nativadi. What he speaks, he has realized. For him, there is no question of again falling back in ignorance. Before that, however we may reason, however we may be proud of the fact that I am meditating, I am regularly contemplating, know it for certain, we are still within the domain of Maya. That Swami Vivekananda tells the story of the stag. We relate it again and again, that a male deer, that it was bragging of its strength by seeing the reflection of its muscles, by seeing the muscular limbs in the water. The stag was bragging, see how strong I am. The young one, the fawn, was just by its side, it was bragging. And suddenly it heard the barking of a dog and it started running, frantically running. The fawn also ran after the stag. After a long distance, when the stag was totally exhausted, it stopped, thinking now it's safe. The fawn was surprised. He told, "What made you run? Just now you were so confident about your strength. What made you so much scared?" And then the stag replies, "I don't know what happens to my confidence when I hear the barking of a dog." So that's what happens as long we are doing vichara. We are just intellectually trying to cogitate the fact without going to the realization. We think that we are spiritually strong, but when the challenges of life come, we find we are overwhelmed. Nothing helps. So the only factor that decides our spiritual strength, our equanimity, is realization. So without realization, there cannot be in any way eradication of that ignorance. So now Sri Ramakrishna is continuing. Thus, Brahman and Shakti are identical. If you accept the one, you must accept the other. It is like fire and its power to burn. If you see the fire, you must recognize its power to burn also. You cannot think of fire without its power to burn, nor can you think of the power to burn without fire. You cannot conceive of the sun's rays without the sun, nor can you conceive of the sun without its rays. The idea is the projected can never be separated from the projection. As long as the snake is, the rope is. When you are deluded, you are seeing the snake as the rope. In no way you can separate the snake and the rope. As long as the snake is, the rope is. As long as the mirage is, the desert is. Though the snake in no way can affect the rope, the snake can in no way inflict poison in the rope. The rope transcends the snake, but they coexist. The desert transcends the mirage. That huge reservoir which I see doesn't have the capacity even to drench a single sand particle. So the desert transcends the mirage, but they coexist. As long as I see the mirage, the desert is. You cannot separate them. So this Maya, Shakti and Brahman can never be separated. The projector and the projection can never be separated. There's a way I can never separate myself from my shadow. Wherever my shadow is, I am. So that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna is saying, that Brahman and Shakti are identical. If you accept the one, you must accept the other. It is like fire and its power to burn. If you see the fire, you must recognize its power to burn also. You cannot think of fire without its power to burn, nor can you think of the power to burn without fire. You cannot conceive of the sun's rays without the sun, nor can you conceive of the sun without its rays. The same idea he's just explaining with other examples also. What is milk like? Oh, you say it is something white. You cannot think of the milk without the whiteness. Or again, you cannot think of the whiteness without the milk. So they are this sambandha, this relation. This one is related with the other. You can no way, just the way the shadow can be. You can never get rid of yourself from your shadow. Similarly, the attributes, because of the ignorance, when the one who is beyond attributes finds expression through attributes, you can never separate the attributes from the one who is beyond attributes. So that's the idea with various examples Sri Ramakrishna is speaking of. Thus, one cannot think of Brahman without Shakti, or of Shakti without Brahman. One cannot think of the absolute without the relative, or of the relative without the absolute. The primordial power is ever at play. This idea introduces the elements of spontaneity and freedom in the creation. She is creating, preserving, and destroying in play, as it were. This power is called Kali. Kali is verily Brahman, and Brahman is verily Kali. It is one and the same reality. When we think of it as inactive, that is to say, not engaged in the acts of creation, preservation, and destruction, then we call it Brahman. But when it engages in these activities, then we call it Kali or Shakti. The reality is one and the same. The difference is in name and form. So when that you are not deluded, you see the snake as snake, you see the rope as rope. So then there is no question of this duality. But when the moment the delusion comes into picture, then the rope and the snake do coexist. Though I don't see the rope, I see only the snake. But they are existing, coexisting, though I don't see it. And they never, in my perceptions, they never coexist. As long as I see the snake, I don't see the rope. The moment I see the rope, I don't see the snake. As long as I am aware of the snake, I am not aware of the rope. The moment again I become aware of the rope, the snake has fallen. So they do coexist, but at the same time, I can never be aware of both of them together. So the power, the moment the expression, this creation finds expression, this absolute finds expression as the creation. This creation, the power, this energy, this Brahman finds expression as Shakti. And that Shakti, that power is being nomenclatured as Kali. To give a common example, that within the Brahman, the Shakti is inherent. That example, just take an iron bar. That in each and every iron bar has the potentiality to become a magnet. Why it is not a magnet? That because the innumerable magnetic dipoles by which this iron bar is constituted are all dispersed. So the north pole of one dipole is negating because as they are in opposite, these are not all aligned. So the magnetic force of each one dipole is negating the magnetic force of another dipole. And hence the net result, net magnetic field is zero. Very interesting. As in the Vedic society, we had the idea of Brahman. The Shakti is inherent in Brahman. That's why we discovered zero. The zero can be a digit. It was conceived by these rishis. Why? Because they had this idea of Brahman. Zero doesn't speak of nothingness. Zero speaks of balance. In the other dualistic religion, Abrahamic religions, they say God created from nothing. But in Vedanta, that's in contrast. They never say God created from nothing. That this creation was lying potentially within the creator. It is not from nothing. Just the way the spider from itself, in the Mundaka Upanishad is there, Sri Ramakrishna will be giving that example. The spider brings forth those cobweb from within itself. Similarly, from God the creation came. How it came? Just that again we go back to that example of that iron bar. The magnet was inherent in it. But moment somehow if I can align all the magnetic dipoles in such a way that the north poles are in one direction and the south pole is in another direction, then that iron bar gets converted into a magnet. And magnet speaks of Shakti, power. It's a type of Shakti. So the Brahman finds expression as Shakti. So the Shakti was inherent. But as long as it is not finding expression, it is just lying as a potential. But the moment it is finding expression, it finds expression as that Shakti, as that power. And that power is not chaotic. it follows certain rhythm. That's why we say that if you throw some iron filings across that magnet which has been created from that iron bar, it will follow a particular pattern, because the Shakti is not chaotic. As it is not chaotic, that's why the creation is possible. Because Brahman, when finds expression as Shakti, it always finds expression in a particular rhythm, as laws. That has been called as rhythm in Sanskrit. Rhythm is truth. Why it is truth? Because you cannot break it. Laws are laws. So this Shakti finding expression as rhythm is the Kali. His work actually is the Brahman. This magnet is not something separate from the iron bar. It was hidden. Potentially it was lying in the iron bar. So similarly, the Kali is verily Brahman and Brahman is verily Kali. It is the one and the same reality. When we think of it as inactive, that is to say, not engaged in the acts of creation, preservation, and destruction, then we call it Brahman. But when it engages in these activities, then we call it Kali or Shakti. The reality is one and the same. The difference is in name and form. That previously what I called it as an iron bar, that itself has got converted into magnet. It is just the differences in the name and the form. The previous, what is the form, difference of the form? Previously, all the magnetic dipoles were scattered, so one was negating the other. So now they're all aligned. That's how the form has changed, and the name also has changed. The name and form, just with a gold ornament, I may have earrings, I may have necklace. The substance is gold. But as per the utility, as per its shape, I have given a name. I've just given something, the name as earrings, something as necklace. The difference is only in the name and in the form. The substance in essence is the same gold. That has been spoken of in the Chandogya Upanishad. The Vacharambhanam Namadheyam Vrittika Ityeva Satyam. With this clay, you make pots, so many different types of pots. As per its shape, as per its utility, some we may call as tumbler, some we may call as plate. So there's difference only in the name and form and its utility, artha kriya karitva. But in essence, they are all the clay. So that's the idea which Sri Ramakrishna is also speaking of here. That the same Brahman finds expression as that primordial power. It is ever at play. As long as this creation is there, its expression is always there. She is creating, preserving, and destroying in play, as it were. It's just spontaneous. In play, there is no purpose. If there was purpose, then the God becomes as he bound. There is no purpose. If all the purpose speaks of our this limitation, that as I am limited, so I am to go beyond that limitations, I am doing something. The purpose speaks of that. God has no purpose. It is out of spontaneous, just like a small child. The expression of life, the expression of joy, how we find that expression? If you give him some clay, it will make and unmake, go on making so many things. It will make some wonderful things, some building, some entire city with that clay, and then again it will break and again make something. Why is making and unmaking? Because he has no as such purpose for doing that. He's full of life, that life finds expression in the making and unmaking. So that's spontaneous. So as the joy finds expression through that spontaneous activity of making and unmaking, similarly here also, the primordial power is ever at play. It's creating, preserving, destroying as if like a play. It has no purpose behind it. So that's the thing, Sri Ramakrishna. How nice. We'll find that just Sri Ramakrishna speaking, the entire realization is being expired. He's not inspiration. It's not that he has read something and then that knowledge he's speaking, that something from outside came inside. Inspiration speaks that something which was not mine has been taken in, has been accumulated by me. So that's why we say in Vedanta there is no inspiration, it is expiration. He has realized the thing. And whatever he's speaking is coming from that realization. And you will find it just tallies that Vedas are true. Ramakrishna's words are true, not because the Vedas are true. It's just the opposite. A realized soul, what he speaks is, we find, is written in the Vedas. And that proves that what is being written is not false. It tallies with the realization. Just the way Swami Vivekananda gives an example, that if how the medicines are patented, that certain new researched medicine works on me well, but immediately I cannot sell it on the market. I have to go through that experimentation. At least the sample has to be experimented on at least 100 patients, on 100 cases, and the results would be 99%. Then only I can say that it is something which can be patented. Similarly with the spiritual realization, what is written in the Vedas, what is the realization of Ramakrishna is not something unique apart from the that others' realization. Through ages, various sages have went to that realization, and all their realization tallies, and that is being as if what you say, that recorded in these Vedantic dictums, and that proves the validity, that it is not something unique Sri Ramakrishna speaking. What he's speaking, you will find, can be matched with the realization of each and every realized soul in the past, in the present, and whoever is going to become in the future. It is bound to tally. And that speaks of its validity and how spontaneously he is speaking of the truth. He has not read any book. All is coming out from his realization. So it's his expression that way. So with this, we stop our discussion today. We'll continue with the remaining portion of Sri Ramakrishna's conversation with Keshav again in the next class. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskars.